Welcome to Weekend One, the show that gives you a roundup of the top stories and interviews featured on ENCA over the past 7 days. I'm Shirdika Pillai. This week's top stories. Amazulu King Zweli engages with the KwaZulu-Natal cabinet in KwaNongoma. 7 inmates escape from a Grahamstown prison in the Eastern Cape. Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi holds an imbizo with the community of Eldorado Park that's seen a surge in violent crime and gangsterism. Residents of Makhanda say they're living in fear after the escape of 7 prisoners from the Makhanda prison on Tuesday. Eastern Cape police have launched a manhunt to recapture them. The public's been urged not to approach the prisoners and rather contact police. ENCA's Ronald Masinda reports.
Most of the escaped prisoners are Zimbabwean nationals who have committed serious crimes such as wino poaching. An ex-convict who served 6 months of his prison term here says the escape comes as a surprise to him.
Yeah, it was cool because I think if I make is safe. Yeah, the corner guards up. Yeah, gone. Couldn't task it, the Landoga abantu abakadayo ngaphandle nangaphakathi. So xa bekwazi uescape kunjalo ushiza bana bungozi kakhulu. Ikhona inside job yenzekile. Abantu bafumene umuntu ongaphakathi waba-escapisa. Bamthembise ngemali oya sebemnikile imali.
A community leader from Makhanda says there have been several escapes at this prison in recent years.
This is not the first time this happens. It has happened maybe in 2 years, it has happened three times. So people are panicking.
A family of an inmate says they were also turned away when they visited the prison on Tuesday.
They were instructed kabantu abaphezulu that bana akubonwa mntu namhlanje, so akakwazi usingenisa ngaphakathi because of that. At least they could have basixelele mhlambi noba ku Facebook or something yabona, so that singa waste, because now sithenga izinto for ukuzobona umuntu ngaphakathi. That's waste of money.
Community members have been urged to report to the police if they identify the escaped prisoners. Ronald Masinda, Makhanda.
Amazulu King Zweli is urging traditional leaders to work with politicians to better the lives of residents. King Misuzulu met with the KwaZulu-Natal cabinet in KwaNongoma this week. Issues of service delivery, development, and the upcoming recognition certificate handover ceremony were discussed. ENCA senior reporter Siphamandla Goge reports.
Amazulu King Zweli says cooperation and partnership between traditional leaders and the KwaZulu-Natal Executive Council is key for development in the province.
Ukukhulunywane namakhosi ngoba sibambisene ngalokhu ngicabanga ukuthi nisizwe kusinikeza ithemba elikhulu ekutheni sibambisane icabinet yaKwaZulu-Natal kanye nesilo.
KwaZulu-Natal Premier Nomusa Dube says the issue of transition following the demise of King Goodwill Zweli Zulu has been the most painful one in KwaZulu-Natal.
It's been very painful, but also a very good blessing that the transition is being handled in a manner that is being handled in a peaceful manner, in a respectful manner. And we are very grateful that the King was able to receive us.
KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Legislature Speaker Nontembeko Boyce says King Zweli will be afforded a special opportunity to address the provincial legislature.
All that I can promise Amazulu, nesizwe sonke sikakumkani uMisuzulu, is that there will be no lesser treatment afforded to King Misuzulu, like any treatment that was given to the late king will also be given to the reigning king.
The meeting also discussed preparations and plans for the upcoming certificate handover ceremony on the 29th of October. Siphamandla Goge, KwaNongoma.
We could have come better prepared. The NPA admits to having mishandled the identity parade of the 20-year-old accused of killing one of the 6 women whose bodies were found in Johannesburg a week ago. Despite a 7-day deadline, A letter to transfer him to another prison for the identity parade was delayed. The bungle earned a tongue lashing from the magistrate. ENCA senior journalist Zweli Mkhize has the story.
It was the second appearance of the 20-year-old who stands accused of killing one of the 6 dead bodies that were discovered in Johannesburg Central a week ago. Now, by today, an ID parade is supposed to be concluded, but it is yet to be done. This is because the state says the accused refused to do the ID parade, but the defense says this is not the case. In fact, the defense says that this was supposed to be done by last Friday, but it was moved to Sunday. And when it came to the time that it was supposed to be conducted on Sunday, the person in charge of conducting it was in church.
The information that we got from the investigating officer is that, yes, the person had made an arrangement to go to church, but by the time the ID parade was to be held, the person was present. And the accused person is the one that said that he cannot participate in the ID parade unless his legal representative is present.
Another bone of contention here was a court letter from the state confirming that the accused will be moved from Sun City to Johannesburg Central Police Station, where this ID parade is to be done by the 25th of October. The state conceded that it could have come better prepared.
So we could have been better prepared. The prosecutor as well could have spoken to the investigating officer before the court starts.
The matter now is to appear before the magistrate on the 25th of October, where the accused can be filmed and named officially. Zweli Mkhize, Johannesburg.
Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi held an imbizo in Eldorado Park on Wednesday. He's promised to increase the Community Safety Department's annual budget from 500 million rand to 8 billion rand. The community of Eldorado Park has been plagued by violent crime and gangsterism over the past few months. ENCA's Moloko Moloto has the story.
Frustrated by violent crime, gangsterism and the proliferation of drugs in their community, residents of Eldorado Park outside Johannesburg have been sleeping outside a local police station for over a month to highlight their plight.
Our parents and our mothers are identifying their children by their hands and their feet and their clothing because their faces has been shot away. All the victims we find several gunshots in their faces. At night they drive around and shoot randomly and terrorize us as a community.
In 2013, James wrote a letter to former President Jacob Zuma seeking his intervention. Zuma promised to personally lead a program to end the violence and drugs in this community. But 8 years later, not much has changed.
We have a situation right now where we are too afraid to send our children to school, which is their constitutional right. When the school dismisses and the kids come out, there are gunshots going off. Kids are running.
Some believe police should consider changing their crime-fighting strategy.
The solution is what we've suggested to them on the 8th of August. It's an integrated approach. That means all spheres of government, like Councillor just said, come together and we have a crime intelligence-driven operation.
After listening to the complaints by residents for over an hour, Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi took to the podium.
As this provincial government will buy 5 helicopters for each region, so that each and every region must have an helicopter that can be assigned to the scene immediately. That is what I'm saying, we mean business when we say we are confronting this crime.
Now that promises have been made, when will the lawlessness in Eldos come to an end? Moloko Moloto, Eldorado Park, outside Johannesburg.
Coming up after the break, we showcase some of the big interviews our anchors did this week with key newsmakers and experts. Welcome back to Week in One. I'm Shirdika Pillai. A car is stolen every 22 minutes in South Africa, and the latest crime stats indicate that hijackings are on the rise. As part of our hijacking focus, the South African morning team spoke to Richard Brousseau from the National Hijack Prevention Academy.
Before we talk about what to do in the event of being hijacked, can we start with what some people are calling soft targets. What do we as drivers in South Africa do that make us an easy target? Richard, good morning. Let's start there.
Good morning, Gather. Hope you're well. When we say soft targets, is most South Africans, or a larger percentage of them, when they drive around, they distracted. They're either on their cell phones or they're busy social media, whatever the case might be. And the criminal picks this up very quickly.
What are some of the tips that you have to prevent a hijacking?
The first thing we must start doing is work on your escape routes. When you approach a vehicle in front of you, try and sit nice and comfortable in your vehicle. Look over your vehicle's bonnet. You must be able to see the vehicle in front of yours, rear tires touch the road. Also, when you drive, ladies, remember 9 out of 10 times the robber smashes left passenger window, because most ladies put handbags either on the ground, half under the passenger seat, or under the dashboard. If you don't want to place your handbag in the boot, make sure it's properly zip closed under the legs. So when you brake hard, nothing rolls out and gets stuck under the pedals or so on. But you have to leave an escape route, that if something happens, there might be a possibility of going left, going right, escaping out of the situation.
How do we try and be more observant when we are literally kept in the dark? What do we do there?
When you approach your house, try and stop parallel if possible. That gives you escape route forward, sideways, backwards. If you've got auto gate, press the remote. As soon as the gates open and you've turned in, stop. Wait for the gate to close behind you immediately. Let's limit this crime to only a hijacking. Let's not let it roll over into a house robbery.
Earlier this week, British Prime Minister Liz Truss came under fire from booing MPs at her first question time session since abandoning her tax-slashing economic policies. SA Tonight anchor Sally Burdett spoke to London correspondent Ollie Barrett for more context.
I've got the list here. 45p tax cut, gone. Corporation tax cut, gone. 20p tax cut, gone. 2-year energy freeze, gone. Tax-free shopping, gone. Economic credibility, gone. And her supposed best friend, the former Chancellor, he's gone as well. They're all gone. So why is she still here?
Mr. Speaker, I am a fighter and not a quitter.
She faced a lot of barbs, tough questions, even a few jokes at her expense from Sir Keir Starmer, Labour leader, this afternoon. Tell us a little bit more about that and how she's perceived to have held up.
Well, this is only her third Prime Minister's questions. Of course, she's only been in the office for a few weeks, but in that period, there was the mourning period for Queen Elizabeth II. So quite a lot of parliamentary business has been on hold. We also then had party conference season. So a lot of the normal rough and tumble of politics is something that Liz Truss has avoided really week to week up to this point. So her third Prime Minister's question session in the PMQs she's had up to now, and in media interviews and at party conference, she's faced a huge amount of criticism for not showing enough contrition, for not apologising quickly enough over that mini budget. She did both of those things in PMQs today. She's also faced huge criticism for not answering questions directly. She made much more of an attempt to do that in PMQs, but Keir Starmer really did go for her and her credibility.
A few days after being grilled in the House of Commons, Truss resigned as UK Prime Minister. She's the shortest-serving Prime Minister in history. ENCA's anchor Dan Moyane followed up with our UK correspondent as the news broke.
Just on the job, Liz Truss is gone. Let's bring in ENCA correspondent Ollie Barrett now in London. Ollie, very good afternoon. What political drama. But it's really been a whirlwind of a rocky start for Liz Truss as the Prime Minister just 6 weeks ago, particularly around her economic plans.
A rocky start and a rocky finish as well. Liz Truss confirming that she's already spoken to King Charles to tell him that she's resigning as leader of the Conservative Party and therefore will also be stepping down as Prime Minister. Certainly, economics has played a huge part in this. When she and her Chancellor unveiled their so-called mini budget at the end of September, it spooked financial markets. It led to multiple U-turns, criticism from within her own party and outside of her party as well. But there was more to it than that as well. There's been issues with party discipline. There have been a number of Conservative MPs starting to come out publicly and say she should go. There have been many, many more of them privately saying that she should go as well. And so after 44 days in the job, the shortest serving UK Prime Minister in modern history, Liz Truss is going.
Have you been able to gauge any, Oli? I see reports saying that the pound sterling has rallied after the news that Truss has resigned. What other kind of quick reaction are you seeing?
Indeed, and it doesn't feel great, look great for Liz Truss that the pound was rallying, even on speculation that she was about to quit. Certainly financial markets have not looked very fondly on her short time in office.
ENCA senior reporter Siphamandla Goge sat down with former Health Minister Dr. Zweli Mkhize. Ahead of the ANC's elective conference in December, Mkhize has been nominated by his home province, KwaZulu-Natal, to run for party president.
You left KwaZulu-Natal, pretty much one of the poorest provinces, municipalities not properly functioning. The issue of service delivery, water provision remains a challenge despite you having led this province.
Well, I wouldn't say that your assessment is correct. KwaZulu-Natal, at the time I left, it was more peaceful than it had been before. KwaZulu-Natal, the ANC had actually registered the highest support that it had of about 62%, coming from 30% of support. The surveys that were done in the whole country did indicate that the premiership that we represented was the topmost in the country, responding to communities. We had instituted programs that made communities to work together with government to mobilize to fight social ills. HIV and AIDS were actually dealt with. The response to HIV is very exemplary. And of course, the economic growth as KwaZulu-Natal had actually been in a good growth space at that time.
You say it's time to change the leadership. You come in. Other people will say, but why you? Because it goes back to the question I've asked, that you've been part of this collective leadership.
Well, I think that there are weaknesses within the leadership as it stands, and it's up to us.
Who is the weakest link in the ANC leadership?
Well, let me say that we need to change the leadership, the way it works, the way it is able to focus on the challenges that are faced by society, the way that it is able to present itself, its image, as well as the unity and coherence of the ANC, the way it is leaning in terms of being seen as focusing on the challenges of all the poor people of South Africa whose lives must be improved. And there will be times when, like over the past few years, the ANC has still faced challenges, but there was growth, there was a job creation, and this particular era we actually have a challenge at that, and that's what we need to address.
Stay tuned to Week in One. Coming up, former Joburg Mayor Mpho Phalatse headed to court to challenge her removal from office. Welcome back to Week in One. I'm Shirdika Pillai. Former Joburg Mayor Mpho Phalatse's legal team was in court this week to challenge her recent removal and the election of Dada Morero as her successor. ENCA's Moloko Moloto was there.
She might be out, but Mpho Phalatse isn't going down without a fight.
Well, this was largely a legal battle. This was a battle for the integrity of our institution as the City of Johannesburg, the integrity of our processes, the integrity of the rule book of council, because should the rule book not be taken seriously, how then do we proceed from here onwards? The implications would just have been so many if we had promoted this type of lawless behavior.
Phalatse's lawyer argues a programming committee meeting of 29th September did not form a quorum and was therefore unlawful. She also argues that the next day, during an extraordinary council meeting which voted out Phalatse, Council Speaker Colleen Makhubele stifled debates and democracy by disallowing DA councillors from debating the motion.
We say that setting aside all subsequent decisions, preserve the integrity of the office and should minimize disruption so that Councillor Phalatse, if she goes back as the executive mayor, shouldn't be faced by a host of decisions unlawfully made that she then has to reverse.
Advocate Terry Mutau, SC for Council Speaker, said political issues must be resolved at a political level and that courts shouldn't be drawn into political disputes. He says while the September 29th Programming Committee meeting did not form a quorum, the initial one that took place on August 23rd satisfied all requirements to place the motion of no confidence on the council agenda. Mutau then asked the court not to set aside Dada Morero's election as new mayor, even if it were to grant Palatz's application to review the legality of her removal.
Because, my lady, that your ladyship would be doing justice and equity to the parties, because it doesn't reward the one party and give the one party a tactical advantage.
Judgment was reserved to a yet-to-be-determined date, but whichever way it goes, the future is ultimately dependent on a numbers game in council. Mulu Kumlot, Johannesburg.
Former President Thabo Mbeki addressed the Association of World Election Bodies' 5th General Assembly in Cape Town. Leaders from over 70 countries discussed how to strengthen democracies and election administration management. ENCA senior reporter Aisha Ismail compiled this report.
Ladies and gentlemen,
the theme of this conference, safeguarding election management bodies in the age of global democratic recession. More than 200 delegates under one roof, with the aim of making elections more inclusive, representative, transparent and participatory. Former President Thabo Mbeki says it's imperative for election bodies to be reinforced.
And once again, our lawmakers, even as they discuss particular details in the law, in fact, are still grappling with the same question. What system should be put in place to give concrete expression to the vision that the people shall govern? I'm not by any means suggesting that you must engage this question, important as it is. But whatever anybody says in this regard, none can question that one of the things that must be done to ensure that the people do govern is that they must be given not only the right, but also the possibility freely to elect their representatives.
The association's newly elected chairperson, Mosoto Moyepia, emphasized the need for an open dialogue that enables countries to learn from one another.
Development will remain a distant mirage if we do not thwart the alarming erosion of democratic gains, characterized by the assault on democratic institutions by the anti-democracy forces, whether in new, small, or big democracies. It is my considered view that elections will not contribute to democracy and development if such elections fall short of the minimum benchmarks for democratic elections.
He concluded that the right to hold free and fair elections must be protected at all costs. Aisha Ismail, Cape Town.
A suspected kingpin of a syndicate that steals Transnet fuel was arrested by the Hawks on Wednesday. The suspect faces charges including damage to essential property and theft. Our reporter Pulele Chwiti-Jones has more.
A Hawks operation is targeting a syndicate believed to be damaging and stealing fuel from pipelines belonging to Transnet. The man suspected of being a kingpin has been on the Hawks' radar for a while. The crime-busting unit also conducted a search and seizure operation on the suspect's property in Woodbank, Mpumalanga. A 35-year-old suspect alleged to be the kingpin behind fuel theft belonging to Transnet has been nabbed in a multi-pronged operation including Hawks officials. This individual faces charges including essential damage to property, infrastructure and theft. Right now, we're in this chopper where we'll be going to the second location, which will include phase 2 of the investigation happening, and officials say this will also include a search and seizure operation.
On arrival at the premises to conduct the search and seizure, there were quite a number of people, workers allegedly working in that property, and of course they did not possess documentations documents that prove that they are legal people, they are here legally. 2 suspects were arrested in those premises in possession of fuel, Transnet fuel, of which was a total of about 8,000 litres.
The Hawks, who strengthened multidisciplinary operations, have included the involvement of private security.
Well, Bidvest Protea Coin has been the sole provider to protect the national pipeline of this country. We've started 3 months ago. We protected from Durban all the way up inland, and we've got lots of technology deployed. We've got lots of bits and pieces, information putting together, doing analyzing, and try and get behind the big syndicates that's hitting these pipeline. Today is a significant bust, and this proved to you what, once again, if the security takes hands with law enforcement, what we can achieve in this country.
The Hawks have not ruled out the possibility of more arrests. Kule, Richard Jones, Mpumalanga.
And that's a wrap for this week's edition of Weekend One. From myself and the team, have a safe one. To our Hindu viewers, Shubh Diwali.